Okay, in our previous session, we discussed broadcast and partition by percentage. Today we will start with partition by expression. Then followed by partition by range, round robin, partition by key, and partition with load balance. So before going ahead with partition by expression, do you have any doubts on this? Whatever so far we discussed?
No,
Venkat.
Yeah, okay, fine. So coming to the partition by expression component, we will be having one input port and output port. Reject, error and log ports. The parameters we have are the function parameter and use package. Okay, so whatever the input records we are getting to the partition by expression component according to the expression. So in the function parameter we have to write an expression. So when the input record is coming, let's say department number 10, it has to go to the corresponding partition. 20 has to go to corresponding partition. So we have to decide that according to the expression which values are going to the which of the partitions. So if you're writing such kind of the expression, it has to be written in the function parameter. No, I want to write a block of statements. So do you remember like somewhere in any of the components so far we have used use package parameter?
So we have used in one component.
Which one? Can you guess which component it could be?
Did we use in filter or?
Yeah, filter by expression.
Yes, exactly correct. You both. A filter by expression component we have used that. By default, use package will be false. So which we cannot be done just by using an expression. Something has to be decided in the block of the statements. Then we have to write in the package parameter by setting use package as a true, so that the function parameter becomes unavailable and a parameter called package becomes available. And here we have to write a function called partition index. So this function will take input as an arguments and returns the partition number. So this is something we have to make sure the partition numbers what we are going to return. So we have to write a logic here. So here there is no restriction how many lines of the code you are writing. So whatever the requirement is there for you, based on the requirements you have to write it. And but only the one constraint we have is whenever you are going to assign a value for this out, so this should be an integer value. If the code is getting assigned any other things, then there is a chance of failure. So we have to make sure that it should return an integer value. So these are the ways we can do the partition by expression. So one could be done with the function parameter if it is a simple expressions. No, I cannot achieve the requirement based on the function parameter. Then make the use package parameter as true. Then a package parameter becomes available and you write out partition index function. But only the requirement is you have to make sure this. It should return an integer value. This is so simple what we have seen in the filter by expression components. Something similar like that. There we are filtering the records. Here we are partitioning the records based on the expressions. The expression we have is, it's a simple expression. If the department number is 20 or 50, the report has to flow to 0th partition, otherwise it has to go to first partition. Okay, let me run the graph. Okay. All the 10 records has been flowed. So all the 20 and 50 records has been flowed to 0th partition, and other than records are in first partition. And in this version we don't have the use package parameter, so I cannot show you how that behaves, but it's a simple thing. However, we are writing an functions. You have to write a partition index function. And next we have is partition by range. The partition by range component has input port and the split port, two input ports and one output port. According to the split value, it will decide to which partition it has to send the record. Input and split. And the parameters we have here are key is a parameter. So whatever the record we are sending from the input port and the split port, so based on the key parameter, whatever the fields we have defined in the key parameter, those fields has to satisfy the data types and their sizes. Otherwise the component will be a failure. So that is one thing a developer has to make sure that the data types and the sizes has to be matched with the input port and the split port. So based on that values, let's say I'm getting from the input port from 20,000 to 2 lakh salaries. So I have given a split values on the salary field saying that 50,000, 1 lakh, 1 lakh 50,000 and 2 lakh. So 20,000 to greater than or equal to 20,000 and less than or equal to 50,000 will be going to the zeroth partition, and greater than or equal to 50,000 1 to less than or equal to 1 lakh will be going to first partition. So like that it will be decided dynamically. Let me show you practically. Okay, so here the input data is, and here we have to make sure that how many records we are sending through the split port. So how can I make sure how many records I need to send? So it all depends on the MFS file system. So as this is a two-way MFS file system, if I say one value 50,000, so less than or equal to the 50,000 values going to the zeroth partition, and all other greater than 50,000 will be going to first partition. So if it is a four-way partition, here we have to send it three values. How am I said till 51 partition, and 50 to 1 lakh is other partition, 1 to 150 is other partition, 150 to 200 is other partition. So we no need to specify four values. Specify that 50, 1 lakh and 1 lakh 50,000. So till 1 lakh 50,000 it will go to a second partition, and more than 1 lakh 50,000 will be going to the third partition. Automatically it will be decided based on the number of partitions. So if you are sending the four records here, then it should be five-way partition, but we never use a five-way partitions. It always suggestible is 2 to the power of n partitions, whether it could be a two-way or a four-way or a 8 or a 16 like that. And in the partition by range, we have to specify the key. I have given key as a salary field. So all the values in the zeroth partition are less than or equal to the 50,000, and here it is more than 50,000. And the next component we have is partition.
Means Venkat, in the split we need to define any of the record.
Pardon?
Right?
What is your question,
In the
brother?
split file, we need to means for this component, we need to define one file which has the records of input file.
Yeah, in this case I have shown like this, but maximum we don't use this partition by range component. But if you are going to use a partition by range, and the split port can be connected with the other component where we have like a find splitters, that will be decided the ranges dynamically, because Here I have shown you with 50,000. So what if I have the values all are more than 50,000? All will be going to one partition. So it doesn't mean that it is a partitioning. We are doing it. It are again equal to the serial flow. So something based on the values on the input file, I need to decide the ranges. So that is the reason we have to go when we are using a partition by range. We have to connect the split component, split port to the point splitters. There is another component, point splitters. If we are using that point
Okay.
splitters, the ranges will be decided dynamically instead of the static data.
Okay.
Fine, Bhagesh?
Yeah.
Okay. And we have next one is partition by round robin. So in this component, we will be having a parameter called block size. So the block size parameter will decide how many records it has to send to each of the partition. So in the input file, I have 10 records. So the first record comes based on the block size parameter. It evaluates and sends those many records to the 0th partition. So here by default, we will be having a block size as 1. So first record read and sends to the 0th partition. Then second record read and sent to the first partition. Then third record will be sending to the 0th partition. Fourth record will be first partition. So that is how it's, we call it as a round robin fashion. What is a file system? We have it. All those block size records will be sending to each of the data partition. So let's see the data again. And the block size we have here is 1. So the children record first record can and it has sent to 0th partition. Then Suman second record is sending to first partition. Then 0th partition and first partition. 0th partition Mamato and J is in first partition. Madhu is in 0th partition, Preeti is in first partition. Vimal 0th partition, Roshini first partition. So according to the block size of the records, it will be distributing. So if we can make it the block size as 2. So every time it reads 2 records, every time it sends 2 records to each of the partition. Let me run the graph so that the files will get recreated. Okay. So now two records, Charan and Suman are in 0th partition. Then Sravan and Kalpana will be in the first partition. Then Mamata Jai in 0th partition, Madhu Preeti in first partition. Then Vimal Roshni will go to 0th partition, and there are no records to distribute to the first partition. So this is how 6 records in the 0th partition, 4 records in the first partition. And then we have very important component, that is a partition by. So the maximum number of cases we will be using partition by key component. So for whatever the components we have seen, whether it's a broadcast, partition by percentage, expression, range, round robin, we can decide at least what record will be going to which of the data partition before running the graph itself. But with a partition by key component, we cannot decide which all the records are going to which partition. So how this distribution will happen in the partition by key? So for the partition by key, the parameter we have to give a key parameter. So based on the field, whatever we have given in the key parameter, internally an algorithm called hash algorithm. Hash algorithm gets executed and returns a bucket number and then gives a partition number. So whatever the key field we have given, that key field will be executed by the hash algorithm and returns the partition number. So if I am sending a department number as my key, so what are the possible values I have in the department number? I have 10, 20, 30 and 50. So there are multiple records of 10 and 20 and 30 and 50. So if I'm sending 10th record to the partition 1, let's say, then whatever the next records of department number 10, all the records will be flowing to the same partition, because the same 10 will be executed by the hash algorithm and again returns the same partition number. So that is how once whatever the value based on the key parameter is flowing to one of the partition, then all those records will be finding in the same partition, whether it could be 0 or 1, depends on the MFS file system. But we cannot decide which record will be going to which of the partition. Something has to be decided by the hash algorithm. But after getting to know, yes, one record has been, let's say 10th department has been flowing to the partition 1, then I can say all the remaining records will be only in the partition 1. None of the records of department number 10 I can identify in partition 0. That I can guarantee, but we cannot guarantee or we cannot make the rules like 10th department has to flow to 0th partition only. That we cannot do it. So okay, here the key we have given our department number. Let me execute it. So all 10 and 30 are in 0th partition. So if I'm sending another 1 lakh records of department number 10 or 30 here, all will again will be flowing to the 0th partition only. You cannot find it in the first partition. But if you're sending any 20 and 60 records, definitely it will come to the first partition. So what I can do is, here we have many 10 records. So let's say like Madhu and Preeti, where the department number is 10, I will make it into 60th department. So let's do that. So here we have Madhu and Preeti of department 10. So this we are making it to 60th department. So refresh this file. Let me close this. So Madhu and Preeti, now we made it to 60th department, and already we have one record of 60. So let me run this. Okay. So now only 5 records we have each, 2 10s and 330s. And Madhu and Preeti, when we made to the department number 60, again it executes the hash algorithm on these values. So it has given partition 1 as a resultant, and that is the reason these both reports previously when it was department number 10 was having at the 0th partition, and when we made 60th it came to first partition. So by looking at this, we can decide that if you are adding n number of records in the input file, all those records again will come to the same partition. So is it clear?
Venkat, is it like round robin based on department number?
No, 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 no. Round robin in the sense, definitely you can see this record. Let's say if I'm making it
Yeah, that's what.
block size as 2, these records you can see in 0th partition, Charan and Suman. Then Shravan and Kalpana you have to see, definitely you have to see it here, but only Shravan is there, then Kalpana is here. And that is completely different with.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, what I'm saying is, like we have given key as department number, right?
Yeah,
So first department number is 10, so it is picking up in 0th partition,
no,
and
no, no,
second
not like,
record is
no, no, no,
20.
not like that. Yeah, we cannot decide. First record always will go to 0th partition. No, nothing like that. Internally, first it reads this record and goes to the partition by key component and checks what is the key on this structure. We said the department number is the key. So it picks this value and sends to the hash algorithm internally. It calls hash algorithm, and then the resultant of the hash algorithm gives a partition number, whether it has to go to 0th partition or first partition. So it says that the resultant value of this is 0th partition. So that is the reason you're seeing this record here. And similarly, so once you see that this hash algorithm has written for this value as a 0th partition, can't I decide if I add 1 lakh records also all the records will go to 0th partition? Because again it executes same algorithm. With the same value, same algorithm always returns the same output, right?
Yeah.
Is it clear? Still you have any confusion?
No, no.
Hello?
No, Venkat, I'm fine.
Okay. You, Ravali, is it fine?
Yes, Venkat, I'm good.
Okay. Then we have partition with load balance. So explaining this component at this environment is, we cannot even imagine the performance of this, but theoretically I can cover when we have to go with this partition with load balance, because the environment should support for a genuine explanation of this such kind of the components. So far whatever the components we have seen is this environment will support, but the load balance kind of the examples has to be shown with the LAN structure or with the node kind of the structure. So here everything which was present only on my laptop, but the general cases when we have to use this partition with load balance is, let's say here, what is this path? To which path are we referring it? What we call this path?
MFS to FS, it is second partition of, I think, MFS.
Pardon? Bagraj, your voice is so low.
It's MFS two-way system, right?
Yeah,
Which we have defined.
yes, yes. So it's a multi-file or the path to the control file. We are not referring the path to the data partitions, right? So we are referring the path to the control file. So to explain this component, the general case, what we can take it is like, let's say this control file is on my laptop and the data partition 0 is in Bhagiraj laptop and 1 is in Ravali laptop. So there should be a node which can be connected to these laptops or the machines or the processing systems. So in such a case, explaining this component is or using this component is a valid scenario. So in general, yes, this is how the system will be designed. The control files will be present in one of the processing machine and the data partitions will be there in another host machines. Sometimes all the data partitions will present in one of the host, and sometimes even there is a possibility of the data partitions will be distributed across different hosts, or sometimes some clients depends on the data. Actually this can be decided all will go in one processing machine only. The control file, the data partitions, everything will be there in one party, only one system. So anything that can be done. But if you are using this component, then definitely it has to be in different machines or different hosts, then only you can use it. So how it will decide, let's say today most of the jobs are running on the Bagheera system. Ravali's machine is so free, so I have the file with crores of records. I need to process it. So can I utilize the resources of the Bagheera's machine again? It's already highly utilized the CPU cycles. So I have to, let's say I'm here, I'm getting 10 crores of the records. So the maximum I can send it is 1 crore to the Bagheera's machine and the remaining all the 9 crores to the Ravali's machine. So something dynamically it will decide where there is a less CPU cycles are utilizing, there it will send the more number of the records. And tomorrow again I'm running the same job. So in such a case, Bagheera's mission is ideal and Ravali's mission is occupied fully. 90% it is occupied. In such a case, after running, now if I am running this job, most of the records at the 0th partition, that is Bagheera system will go to 9 crores of records. Ravali's mission can go only 1 crore of the record. So that is how internally it will decide a partition with load balance. Here we don't have any parameters at all. No need to define anything, just use it. So based on the control file system, whatever we have given here, so it will decide. So if I just do the cat of this control file, what is the output? So it gives the path of the control file in which mission it has and how many partitions we have it, then the host names of each of the partition and the path of the data partitions. So based on this, it will decide dynamically and then it connects to that node, to that processing machine and get the CPU cycles, how the network of this machine is occupied. Then it will decide how many records it has to distribute to each of these data partitions. So that is something dynamically it will decide. So this is a behavior of this partition with load balance. And in such a case, using this for this technical purpose of having just 10 records, it's no use of seeing this practically. So within the fraction of the seconds, all the records will be distributed to the partition and it won't even distribute to the other partition. Only with one partition, all the records will be flowing, whether it could be 0 or 1. We cannot decide it. So there is no data in the first partition. So obviously all the records will be in 0th partition. Yes, all the records has been flowed to 0th partition. So can you able to visualize, right, how when we have to use this partition with load balance? Or is there any doubts on this?
Venkat,
Yeah,
can you
but
show me that input parameters, input file parameters?
input file parameters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and where we have defined that URL in partition load balance.
What is that?
And that URL, I mean, control file path.
Control file will be in the output file. I'm saying it has to create
Okay.
this. The control file always will be on my laptop, but if it is a two-way MFS
Mhm.
file system, one of the partition 08 partition data will be there in your laptop, and first partition laptop will be there in the Ravel's laptop. Like that
Mhm.
configuration we will be having it if you are going to use this kind of the components.
Oh,
Let me
okay, fine.
show you the control file once again. Okay, so this is the path I have given: Abinitio MFS two-way, partition with load balance dot dat. So partition with load balance dot dat. So here it is saying the control file. This is the host name of my machine. So the control file is at this machine, and the data files are also at the same machine. So in such a case, we can consider like if you are using partition with load balance, the control file, yes, this is the machine, and data partition 0, I can take it Bagheera's machine name, and this could be Ravali's machine name. If it has been configured in such a way, using that partition with the load balance will be a beneficiary. Otherwise, there is no use. Clear?
Yeah. And like it one thing,
Yeah.
suppose we have run this process for one time.
Okay.
Okay. Data will be going to the partitions.
Yes.
And the next time you have run the same process,
Okay.
and then data will get override or it
Yeah.
will
Obviously.
overload.
Obviously, it will overwrite. It depends on the
Override, no?
settings
Okay.
what you have done on the files, but most of the cases we do overwrite. It will not be appending it. It will be overriding. Fine.
Yeah, fine. Okay.
You, Ravali, is it clear so far whatever we discussed?
Yes, Venkat.
Yeah. Okay, fine. So here we have completed the partition components. So the next concept we will be discussing is a departition components. So that we will start tomorrow. Is it fine? Because I have to go to office
Yeah,
a
Okay,
bit
fine.
early today, so I am stopping 15 minutes sooner.
Okay.
that's okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.